Hey, Margie here, and today we're talking about posture because right now so many people are complaining that their shoulders are tight, their neck sore, their back sore because they're not at work, they're working from a home office, and they're sitting more. With this pandemic, people have not been getting out as much and doing as much, and so we're home sitting, maybe working not in the best ergonomic situation, and things are starting to hurt. And so there's some real easy tweaks because most people don't think about our posture. We're busy. We're not thinking about posture. And it's something that can really transform your life. So I'm going to dedicate this posture, this podcast to talking about posture and giving you some real easy things that you can do right away to really make a difference in how you feel. Because studies have shown that improved posture improves energy. They had college students walking around, they looked at college students walking around rounded versus walking around in an upright position. And guess what? Those who were in the upright expanded position had more energy. They've done studies showing decreased anxiety with expanded posture and decreased negative affect. And they've also showed research done by Amy Cuddy at Harvard showed that when people were in an expanded position, they felt more powerful. They were able to do more. So it goes on and on. There's so many benefits. And I've been teaching posture, ready for this, for over 40 years as a physical therapist. And I can't even tell you how important it is. People will come in and whether they have a shoulder injury or a neck injury, unless you help them correct their posture, they don't stay better because posture contributes to so many problems. And the good news, it's something easy to correct. It may not happen overnight, but there are easy tweaks that can make all the difference in the world. So that's what I wanted to share with you today, because if I can help you feel better, that is so important to me. So let's start with sitting, because that's what a lot of people are having issues with. Now, when we sit, what I want you to do is see how you're sitting right now if you're sitting. If you're not sitting when you go home, but the key is most people think, oh, bring your shoulders back, bring your head in. And first of all, that military posture is not what we want. When you think about good posture, it should be natural, comfortable. When you're in good posture, things fall into alignment and your muscles are relaxed. If you feel you're forcing yourself into good posture, that is not what we're talking about. And that's not good. Because what happens is when you force yourself, you're tightening your muscles. And when you tighten your muscles, guess what? You're stopping the blood flow, because when a muscle is moving, you're getting blood in. But when you're tight and tensing the muscle, the blood stops. And then you're not getting the circulation. And then that just leads to pain, which leads to spasm. And it just becomes this endless cycle. And that's when you feel those knots in your muscles. So forcing yourself into good posture is not the answer. We want to just get you into a good alignment. And so to start with, where is your low back when you're sitting? People don't realize that the low back in the pelvis is the key. So for a lot of people, when they're sitting, they're rounding out their low back. And when you round out your low back, everything falls apart. And so when you round out your low back's rounded. It may feel good for a minute, but what that does, that immediately puts your shoulders in a rounded position, and it puts your neck forward and your upper back is rounded. So in this position, lots of things can happen. The low back being rounded is overstretching ligaments. It's not meant to be overstretched. And when they're overstretched and the structures are overstretched, they lose strength. And so they're no longer strong to support you. So that's a weakened position with the low back being rounded for extended periods of time. Then the upper back, the middle back gets rounded as well. And that we certainly don't want to get ourselves in that position. We know what that looks like when people have what's called a kyphosis in the thoracic spine. So we certainly don't want the middle back rounded. And then a huge problem is the shoulders. And I see this all the time. So when now the shoulders are rounded. Now this is just because the low back's rounded, it puts the shoulders we call protracted. They're forward and rounded. And this is the position for impingement. And so if you lift your shoulder when it's rounded, you lose range of motion. If you bring your shoulder blades back and you're in a different posture, you can have full range of motion. But when you're rounded and your shoulder is forward, your motion is limited. And it puts you in a position that you can cause impingement. That could be bursitis, tendinitis, all the structures in the shoulder. So just by this position, I see people exercising with this rounded back, rounded position all the time with their shoulders. They think they're doing good things, but their shoulder is in a position of impingement. Then what happens, just from this rounded posture, is that we're collapsed. We don't have the same lung capacity because we're collapsing on our ribs and reducing the amount of air that we can take in. So there's so many issues. There's also something called thoracic outlet that's in this area, that what happens, the nerves in the arm. So just from this rounded position, we could have impingement on nerves in the arm. It's crazy. And then the neck. So when we're rounded, usually then our neck is a little forward. And when the neck is forward, it's called a forward head posture. And this is really common when people's chins are out. And also this can happen from texting being forward as well. But when your head is out, if you feel right below where your neck meets your scalp, very, very top of your neck, those muscles get tightened. They're called the suboccipitals. And when those are tightened, that compresses nerves that can go into your head, even your eyes. So you can get headaches. You can just get so much pain in that area. So I can't even tell you, because I've seen this, as I said, for 40 years. I have been seeing problems that we absolutely need to address the posture. So what can we do? First of all, what you can do, now good news is that I'm going to be giving you a set of videos that I created called Improve Your Posture in 2 weeks. And it's 7 videos. And so don't worry if you don't hear every word I'm saying, because I think you need to watch these and learn. And so we really go into a lot of concepts, easy things that you can do each day. And by the 2 weeks, you've learned some really great habits. And I go into sitting, I go in detail. So I'm just going to give you some easy things you can do now, but I highly, highly suggest that you watch these videos because, again, they're easy. And so many people have told me after watching the videos, making some minor adjustments, oh, Margie, I can't thank you enough. My shoulders feel so much better. And that's the thing. Most of us don't realize that just because of the way we're sitting or the way we're doing things, that we're causing fatigue and pain. A lot of people just think, oh, pain is just part of my life. No big deal. Everybody's tight. They're not, and you don't have to be. So let's start with some easy things that you can do. First things first, all day long. And visualization works amazing. I use visualization with everything I teach because the body loves that. When you can visualize something, it really helps. And so what I want you to do is visualize your spine as lengthening. So often we have gravity and everything pushing on us, and it's just pushing us down. So let's visualize our spine as lengthening. Just think that on the top of your head, you can do it 2 ways. I made a mistake once, and everyone liked what I said. So what I used to say all the time is think that there's a string attached to the top of your head that's just pulling you up. And so your spine is always lengthened with everything you do. And then it's attached to a helium balloon. But then I once said, think of your head as a helium balloon lifting, and people like that as well too. So either way, think of the string pulling you up and that you're just lengthened. And you walk around like that instead of feeling compressed with gravity. When we walk around lengthened, it can make a huge difference. So always use that with everything you're doing. You want to be lengthened. So that's number one. Now, when we're sitting, one great thing you can do is, there's a lot of, first of all, what not to do. Well, if you're sitting right now or when you get to later, cross your legs and see what happens to your low back. Okay? Did it round? And just what we talked about, the key here is we do not want a rounded low back. Because and that's so easy, and that in anything you do, oh, is my low back rounded? Because our normal curve, we have three curves. We have an inward curve in the neck, an outward curve in the mid back, and an inward curve again in the low back. And that's how it should stay. We have that, we're designed that way so we can handle weight, we can distribute weight. We can function so much better than if it was ramrod straight. So those curves are important. And by maintaining those curves in our activities, it's huge. It just uses a lot less energy. And we're going to just feel so much better and preserve our joints and muscles. Because when we use good posture, we don't get excessive force. And we just feel better, we'll age better, our joints, our muscles, everything will thank us. And we can exercise differently. So, okay, so now when we're sitting, we want to maintain that low back. So one way when we're sitting is, and again, in the videos, you'll be able to see this, but if you have your legs separated, your legs are separated instead of being together and rounded. That's really how we're meant to sit. We're not meant to sit with our legs together. We're meant to sit with them separated. And if you sit on your hands for a minute, there's two sit bones, and we should be sitting directly on those sit bones. So if we're on the sit bones now, or you can then rewind, do this when you go home. And if you round out your back, so you're rounding your back out, then you see those bones come forward. And if we're overarching our back, because that's not good either, then those bones go back. So we want to be sitting directly on those bones. And one way I like to do this, it's an exercise that I got from Moshe Feldenkrais. I'm a big believer in the Feldenkrais method, is that you pretend that you're sitting on a clock. And you're sitting on the face of a clock. And the front of the clock, you can do it either way you want, is 12, and the back of the clock is 6. And then you move your pelvis from 12 to 6. And, so you would just be rounding and arching. And then you close your eyes and you do it smaller and smaller increments till you stop. And that's a really good way to just sort of get your pelvis in the right position. So if I were to push on your shoulders, you wouldn't collapse. You'd be in a nice upright posture. And sometimes I have people use a towel roll if they're sitting in the back of the chair and they just can't maintain this. So at least they're not rounding their back. The key, and there's lots of supports too, but the key is not to round your back. Then when you're sitting, and anybody can do this, your legs are apart, and you can also straddle a chair. So you can take, instead of sitting straight in the chair, you can take the chair and put your legs on either side. And again, I'll show, this will be in the video that you can get. And so anyway, when you're doing that, here's the thing. If you push down, all you're doing is pushing down on your feet. The rest of your body lifts up. So it's an easy thing to do. And I know we talked about this, actually, this technique. I talked about it with Sarah Meeks when she spoke on osteoporosis, because it's such a great technique. So again, all you're doing is easily pressing your feet into the ground. So simple. Also a good thing to do as you're working. You just press your feet in because it lifts you, and it just helps you feel, be in good posture. So once we have our back, it's a lot easier to maintain everything else. That's really the key. So, but when you're, the other thing that I like to do during the day is also to just do exercise. What I found is people are busy. And I could tell them, and I did this with patients for years, I'd give them a holistic exercise. I'd give them, I tell them, make sure that your head or this, and it didn't work. No one's going to think, in the middle of their day, where's my head? Oh my God, my head's forward, my back's rounded. But if you do certain exercises, what I did find is that when people did exercises throughout the day, it reminded them, oh yeah, my shoulders should be here, my back should be here, my neck should be here. So in those videos, I have some great exercises where you're just bringing your, one is, just bringing your shoulders back and down. And that works so well throughout the day because it reminds them, so often if we're rounded, those muscles get overstretched and they forget to work. And it causes all sorts of havoc. So by just throughout the day, bringing your shoulder blades back and down, it makes all the difference. And the same thing with the neck. By visualizing the string pulling you up and just very, very, very gently bringing your chin in so you're lengthening your spine, extremely powerful. And then even getting up and just arching back and doing a few things, moving, because the body doesn't like to be in one position for a period of time. That's another thing. Moving, change positions, even if you're driving for periods of time, get up, get out of the car. But during the day, you can get busy at your computer. Just stop for 1 minute, get up, stretch, do a few exercises. It can change everything. And so there's lots of things with posture, but I don't want to give you too many things because then you'll get overwhelmed. But I think thinking of always lengthening, number one, whatever you're doing, every activity, is your spine lengthened or is it compressed? Number one. Number two, where's your low back? Is it rounded or are you maintaining the curve in your low back? And then throughout the day, doing just some gentle shoulder exercises so that your shoulder blades are back and down, not rounded. And then with your neck, just, your chin in, not to stay like that, but just so that we're stretching the neck. And move. And the thing is, there's a lot that can be done. Sometimes the setup isn't right. And that's another thing. I'll probably do another podcast on ergonomic setup because lately I've been helping people with the pandemic change their home offices so that they can work comfortably from home. And that's totally doable. But even if you have the best chair and the best desk, if you don't understand the principles, that's not going to work. And I used to teach back school for many years. I also taught ergonomics and went to so many Fortune 500 companies and really help people do their daily jobs, putting reduced stress on their back so that they can feel good, because we all want to feel good. Who wants to go home and be fatigued and tired? Nobody wants to. So these posture tips are really, really critical. And I just wanted to say another thing about posture. And you know that I'm big into happiness and teach happiness. And there's correlation between posture and happiness. But I want you to experience this now. So what I want everybody to do is I want everybody to get into a bad posture, okay? We're going to round our shoulders and actually even tighten up. We're going to be tightened, okay? We're tightening up. Our shoulders are rounding, and get in the bad posture and tighten your wrists. So we're contracted. This is called contraction. And ready? And we're going to say, I feel happy in this position. Ready? I feel happy. And do this with me unless you're somewhere that you can't. If you can't, then do it when you get home. I feel happy. I can't stand being in that position because I don't feel happy. Now, let's be in an expanded position. Just open your arms wide and let's see how we feel. And let's say, I feel miserable. Can you do that? I feel miserable. You can't. There's such a difference between a contracted posture and an expanded posture. And it's simple. You want to do, one of the concepts that I teach in happiness is that you want to do things in an expanded posture. And so even think about this. When anybody wins a race, the runner, they run and they win the Olympics. What do? They do the victory pose because it feels so good. They're elated. And even blind athletes do that. So there's something inherent. They don't know. They haven't seen people do that. There's something inherent that you just feel great when you're in an expanded posture. So what I teach in my classes, and it's an easy concept, is you want to really put this into your life. Do activities that make you feel expanded. And if something makes you feel contracted, think about why is it making you contracted? Because that leads to more unhappiness. And so what I like to do is have people write down their day. What fills their day? How does it make you feel? Contracted or expanded? Because how sad would that be if you're spending, 80% of your day contracted? Then something needs to be changed because we all have the right to be happy and we want to be happy. So we need to figure out what activities expand us and do more of them. So the posture can be used in so many ways. And I just wanted to share some simple concepts. Another concept I just wanted to mention is don't lock anything. When we stand, we don't want to lock our joints because that puts them that puts stress on them. They're not meant to be locked. They're always meant to be soft. So with good posture comes softness. And I go more into this, in terms of the alignment where the ear is over the shoulder and not forward and different things. But I think the concepts that we talked about today can get you started and can make a huge, huge difference. So all you have to do is go to happyboneshappylife.com/gift and you'll get, it's just it's free. It's just, as I mentioned, it's 7 videos that I did, each one showing you what I'm talking about how to sit, how to stand. I even have one on text neck because that's such a big deal today. And what they found, this is unbelievable, is that the neck, the actual x-rays of children's neck have changed. They're losing their curve. This is so sad because they're constantly in a rounded position. And this has huge, I can't even imagine the implications when they get older and back problems. And these can all be avoided. So definitely when you learn this, share this with your children and grandchildren because it's really easy and it's preventable and there's so much we can do. So I wanted to share this with you today. Again, the link will be in the show notes, but just happyboneshappylife.com/gift and you'll get the posture exercises. So, and stay tuned because I will do another episode on office setup. And if that's something that you're interested in, send me an email because I can certainly help you with that. That's something that a lot of people have been interested in lately, and I'm trying to figure out the best way that I can help people because I've been, doing a lot of one-on-one consults, helping people fix up their office, their home office, so that they don't hurt themselves and they're not, and they have energy by the end of the day because that's our goal. We want to have energy and feel good, and we're going through a lot of tough things right now. And as I've mentioned before, it's so important that we keep ourselves in good shape so we can show up and do what needs to be done in the world today. Anyway, on that note, again, thanks for listening and thanks so much for being part of the podcast. And I look forward to, and again, email me or leave notes on the podcast. I'm happy to talk about this with you, or if there are other topics that you want me to make little videos in more detail on, just let me know how I can help you as much as possible. So bye for now, and I look forward to seeing you on the next episode.